Council for May 12th to order at 3 p.m. Jody?
Please note, council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17.2 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to FOIP, that's FOIP, at highriver.ca.
Thanks, Jody. Adoption of today's agenda in front of council. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting on May 12th, 2025 as presented.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have the motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of previous meeting minutes. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council adopts the April 28th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Annual financial statements and auditors report. Michelle and Will.
Today you have, sorry. Today you have before you the audited financial statements of the town for the year ended December 31st, 2024. This is presented pursuant to sections 276, 277, 278, and 281 of the Municipal Government Act, requiring the town to prepare annual financial statements and a financial information return for the immediately preceding year, on which the municipality's auditors must report. Council received the independent auditor's report from BDO Canada LLP and adopted the audited financial statements of the town for the year ended December 31st, 2023 on April 22nd, 2024. Effective January 1st, 2025, the town's auditors transitioned from BDO to MMP, and the engagement was assigned to MNP LLP. Apart from the name, there has been no change in the town's auditors for the December 31st, 2024 financial statements. The financial statements show the town remains financially stable in the short term. It shows excessive revenue over expenses of $9.25 million, which is compared to last year when there was a shortfall of just under $2 million. Operating activities generated new cash of $7.5 million compared to just under $7 million the preceding year, and these funds were used in part with existing surplus to reduce long-term debt by $1.06 million compared to $1.03 million the year before, and to increase investment in tangible capital assets by $14.88 million compared to $13.07 million in the prior year. And the town is also showing, remains a going concern and remains financially sustainable over the long term, with an increase to the cumulative financial position of each element of accumulated surplus, with unrestricted going to $3.4 million, internally restricted going to $25.6 million, and equity and tangible capital assets going to just under $270 million through fiscal 2024. However, during 2024, administration did identify that offsite levies had been erroneously recognized as revenue and transferred to internally restricted reserves. As a consequence, accumulated surplus and net assets had been overstated while liabilities had been understated. So a reduction of just over $7 million to reserves and a corresponding increase to deferred revenue was recorded with retroactive restatement of the comparative figures. The change impacted accounting presentation and had no impact on cash or cash flow for the year. The goal is always to provide unqualified audit opinion on its annual audited statements and to resolve any and all outstanding audit recommendations as time and resources permit. However, consistent with the independent auditor's report and audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023, there is a qualification on the basis of asset retirement obligation. And now this year there's also a qualification on the contaminated sites liability. So I will now turn it over to our independent partner on the engagement, Mr. Will Zobel, to speak to the auditor's report. Thank you.
So, as Michelle said, my name is Will Zobel. I'm with Myers Norris Penny. We've performed the audit now for a number of years, and as she pointed out, our name changed to MNP when our office in Lethbridge joined Myers Norris Penny, and so from BDO. So, getting to the auditor's report to support what Michelle has just explained. Page 1 of the report at the top talks about our opinions. So in our opinion, except for the possible effects of the matters as described in the basis for qualified opinion section of our report, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So the basis of opinion, basis for qualified opinion, so the handbook, the accounting standards require testing and all the things that you need to do to record a liability for asset retirement obligations, and that hasn't been done yet. I believe, I understand the town's working on a plan to undergo that. And then during the year, we also tried to get some more information on a couple of sites that the town owns that has contamination. We're not sure if there's contamination that exceeds an environmental standard, and so there's some testing that needs to be done to determine if that's the case. If that's the case, then there needs to be a liability to estimate how much of it, what that liability looks like, and if it is under the threshold, then of course you wouldn't need to record a liability, and then that goes away. Right, so in essence it's a scope limitation because we don't know at this point. So other than those two issues, it's everything else is fine within materiality of the file.
As such, administration is aware of this issue and is looking to address these issues in connection with the ongoing asset management program and possibly adding additional work necessary to begin to resolve these issues. Obviously, adoption of the financial statements is required usually for May the 1st of the year, and we have notified the municipal affairs to let them know that the statements will be filed a little bit late, and we are our administration is recommending accepting the financial statements as provided and the financial information return so that they can be uploaded to the requisite sites, and also to further make the financial statements and the auditor's report available to the public, which will be posted onto the town's website. Are there any questions or any specific areas?
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Will. Questions from council? My first one is in regards to this asset contamination, these sites. Can you give me an example of what we're dealing with here? Like, is this brownfield sites or specifically our buildings? Or
It'll be the brownfield sites that they're looking for additional work on.
But only brownfield the town owns? Is that right? Or?
Well, certainly not. Yeah, not anything that it's a function of whether or not the town is accepting responsibility. So normally it would only be town lands unless there's some reason that the town accepts.
Okay.
But largely the ones that we're concerned with have been the ones that have been viewed as brownfield.
brownfield, and is there buildings that are involved, like our facilities?
No, I believe on balance, the building will actually be more of an asset retirement question.
Okay.
Because asset retirement applies to normal usage. And in a lot of cases, what we're looking at here is building material, whereas the contaminated sites is looking at something that's happened sort of outside of normal usage. So whether or not there's usually material in the ground on balance that requires cleanup.
Fair enough. Understood. My second question, obviously the one number that stands out is this excess of revenue over expenses, this $9.25 million, which is obviously a significant change from the previous year. So can you explain where that number comes from? Like, what's involved in such a change?
If you look at the shortfall of revenue over expenses before other, there's not quite as significant a change. There was a $4.1 million shortfall this year compared to a $5.2 million shortfall the year before. However, a lot of the activity during the year was for capital projects, and therefore the town was able to recognize a great deal of deferred grant revenue during the year, so that this year it was $9.2 million.
Gotcha.
Sorry, 13.3 or 13.4 million compared to 3.3 million last year, and that resulted in the much higher final excess versus the shortfall for the prior year.
It's associated with projects being completed, under construction, and completion dates where we realize that revenue coming back out and into the
available grant funding from the capital projects on balance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? I see none, hear none. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council receive the independent auditor's report from MNP LLP and adopt the audited financial statements of the town of High River for the year ended December 31st, 2024 as presented, and that council authorize the mayor and CAO to sign any required documentation to confirm council approvals.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Want me to sign them right now, Will? And then you can make your way. Thanks, Michelle. Second and third readings for bylaw 4644, amendment to the South High River Area Structure Plan. Sarah?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The report before you today is concerning second and third readings of a bylaw for an area structure plan amendment. The application is to amend the South High River area structure plan to redesignate a portion of that land from commercial to multifamily, and that's specifically at 90 Monteith Drive Southeast. That property is 0.53 hectares in size. The public hearing was held on April 28th. In addition to administration's presentation, the applicant spoke out in favor of this application, and there were 2 letters from the public that were read aloud by a member of the Legislative Services staff. Both of the letters were concerning public space, for example, playgrounds, dog parks, and other green space. The applicant confirmed that there will continue to be at least a minimum of 10% municipal reserve granted to the town, and that no changes to the municipal reserve layout are being contemplated by the subject application. Administration does recommend to council that they proceed with second and third readings on the subject bylaw amendment. Are there any questions?
Questions from council? Thanks, Sarah. I don't have any. As you stated, the only 2 comments that we got back from the public were regarding green space concerns within Montrose. Nothing that would be specific to this piece of property, because this piece of property would never really fit into any kind of green space expansion in that section with the build out that's all around it. So all good. I will ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council give second reading to bylaw 4644 2025, being the amendment to the South High River area structure plan, that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4644 2025.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Get at it, Clark. First reading bylaw 4648 2025, the business license bylaw. Jocelyn, you really want to open this one up today, hey?
I guess so.
All right.
Lucky me.
Lucky you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today I'm presenting the first reading of the business license bylaw. Administration was directed to improve our current business license process, which includes starting with the existing bylaws. All internal departments met to discuss improvements, and I engaged with our local Chamber of Commerce. Administration also researched other communities in Alberta seeking opportunities to improve the bylaw. Changes in the proposed bylaw include definitions and formatting, mobile business operations, updated exemptions, including film production companies, written confirmation of provincial and federal requirements, parking for business owners, as well as offenses and penalties to enforce the bylaw. The justification for adding film production companies as a business license exemption is because all film production companies complete and pay for a simple or complex film permit while filming in our community. The information that we obtain through the film permitting process is similar to the business license process. The nature of the film industry is fast, and offering an exemption for a business license allows us to create an efficiency and supports our community in being film friendly. In the current bylaw, we require all applicants to provide proof of any documents required by provincial or federal governments to carry on business. In the new bylaw, we have stated written confirmation that the proposed place of business will comply with all federal, provincial, and municipal statutes at all time when carrying on business. This adjustment allows for applicants to sign off, stating that they will meet the requirements instead of having to provide the documents for administration to review, therefore creating an efficiency in timelines. We recognize that the business license procedure noted business owners should park in a public parking lot and leave the parking space in front of their business available for customers. This was updated to state that that should be all businesses instead of just mobile businesses. And then lastly, Schedule A has been added to provide a clear summary of specified penalties. If council supports the first reading of the bylaw, the public hearing is scheduled for June 9th at 3 p.m. Does council have any questions?
This is first reading, so there's not a lot of, and a public hearing slated for this as well, so there's lots of discussion that can happen in the future, but Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'm having a little trouble this afternoon. With the business licenses, I get a lot of these people coming around door to door wanting to do my shingles and do my windows and stuff. Are they required to present a business license when they're doing that?
Currently in this bylaw, it doesn't state that they are required to present a business license to you during door-to-door sales. They are required to obtain a business license, though.
Should we ask for that, perhaps? I know I've been asked a question before. These people are going around door to door, and do they actually have a business license? And I assume there's some credibility there. So if we could.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I appreciate you saying there's going to be a public hearing on this, so I got some things to talk about, but we'll talk about them there. But in terms of, to Councillor Kinghorn's point, in terms of people knocking on your door, that's just a solicitation. That's not doing business. That's finding out if there's business to do in the community. So we can talk about that at the hearing, but I'm not quite sure I see the fit to have the business license, in my opinion, is a whole other, just a topic in general. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But on that particular point, it's no different than receiving an email from somebody. How do we do that? Or a phone call that says, hey, we're going to clean your furnace or do your shingles. Does a phone call then require the same thing? So I get your point, Councillor Kinghorn, but I don't know, maybe it just opens up a big kind of gaping hole to jump into. But we can talk about that at the hearing. That's good fun.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments, Councillor Nychuk, but often I've been asked to sign a contract when they come to the door. They want you to sign a contract and schedule the appointment and all the rest of it. So I think as soon as you're doing that, then you're doing business. Thank you.
No further questions. We'll move into getting the first reading done and getting the public hearing taken care of. So I will ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk. The council give first reading to bylaw 4648-2025, the business license bylaw, and the council direct administration to schedule the public hearing for June 9th, 2025 at 3 p.m.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jocelyn. Good neighbor bylaw, Steve.
Good afternoon, Mayor Snodgrass, members of council. We're here for you today to talk about Good Neighbor Bylaw 4639, hopefully going to be renamed to 2025. Over the last 3 years, our municipal enforcement officers have taken a deep dive into our Good Neighbor Bylaw and have been making notes on the challenges and some gaps which they've observed over the past 3 years. Before you is a revised bylaw, highlighting some of the changes within the amendments here would be a definition of life safety and critical infrastructure. The addition of fighting as a provision in the bylaw. What this recommendation brought forward was if there are two individuals that have a consensual altercation in a public space, as it being consensual, it would be no longer deemed a criminal matter, so there couldn't be an assault charge added to it. However, under the bylaw, if we've got a fighting provision in it, would give the RCMP and municipal officers the ability to charge $500 to each combatant to kind of take away that edge of wanting to do it in a public space. We've seen some trends within the BSRC that this has actually been a concern, and we've had no recourse to fall back other than banning or removing them from the building. The addition of loitering and panhandling, this has been a trend that we've seen in our community start to come up over the last couple of years, and we've been receiving a number of calls and complaints regarding both of these. Noise regulations, I believe Chief Zebedee was in front of council last year to discuss a noise concern that was brought forward from the golf course, and some changes were made to reflect that conversation with council. And the second last one here is we've changed the wording in around remedial orders and order to remedy, which now would completely align that section with the Municipal Governance Act, which is where all of the verbiage comes from originally. And lastly, on this last amendment is all the exemptions which were in the original bylaw, we've removed for this revised bylaw. Those exemptions included different areas that we could not find any, through research, could not find any provisions as to why they were originally added, and it was causing us some challenges through some enforcement. All town divisions have been consulted, including the leadership team, and our legal team has been consulted and reviewed this bylaw to ensure that it could be defended upon challenge. Due to the limited amount of really big changes in it, we're hoping to ask council for first, second, and third reading of bylaw 4639-2025 and to rescind both bylaws 4579-2020 and 4619-2023, which all those information are captured in this new bylaw.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Well said, Trevor. Councillor Nychuk.
Not speaking to the bylaw as a whole or any of the details that were just presented, but what's the best way to go through this? Part 6, fighting, loitering, panhandling. Page 178 of the total package, or page, however you look at this, page 12 of 19 of the bylaw provision within the agenda. Maybe either one of those numbers gets it for you. Okay, coming back to my point was the fighting piece. 46. Any person engaged in an assembly described in section 43 shall disperse upon demand of a peace officer. Section 43 is above, and that's litter, flyers, and donating bins. I think you meant 43 to be 45. No person shall be a member of an assembly of 3 or more persons. I think that's how it was referring, if I was reading it right.
You're correct. That was an oversight. So that number 46 should actually be moved down to say 45. That is correct.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to poke holes in your bylaw, just a little technical glitch that I think it was just a keystroke error in the bylaw being written up or something. You guys cross your T's and dot your I's pretty good, so I think it was probably just a clerical error. So just before, with your ask to do all readings at this particular sitting, everything should be buttoned down. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Michael. Regarding the exemptions, Steve, like the exemptions that were previously there, when I went back and read a few of those, were those properties that the town had annexed that were kind of left out of there? Is that where that comes from? That
we looked at that originally and started to pull the annexation agreements to see if that's maybe where they came from, and we couldn't find anything within those.
So are you hopefully telling me that the property on Center Street south of the roundabout can be dealt with?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
You're so good. Okay. That's the answer I needed. No questions, further questions from council. I'd like to ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn. That council give first, second, third reading to bylaw 4639-2025 being the good neighbor bylaw, or that council give first reading, that should not be there right there. Council give first reading to bylaw 4639-2025 being the good neighbor bylaw, and the council give second reading to the previously mentioned bylaw, and that all council present give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of the previously mentioned bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I hope this isn't a reflection on me, but I'll give you that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And I'll ask for a motion that from Councillor Walsh that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4639 being 2025 being the good neighbor bylaw, and that council rescind the former good neighbor bylaw 4579-2020 and the good neighbor amendment bylaw 4619-2023.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Trevor. 2025 property tax bylaw. Michelle?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. You have before you bylaw 4650-2025, the 2025 property tax bylaw. This is presented pursuant to sections 353, 354, and 369 of the Municipal Government Act, requiring the town to set property tax rates annually. For this year, the 2025 property taxes are levied on the 2024 assessment values. And so property owners with increased assessment values may see an increase in their 2025 taxes, while those with decreases may see a reduction in their 2025 taxes. The total assessed value for all taxable properties increased 14.9% from 2.6 million to just over 3 million in 2024, with an average, but it's supporting an average 7% reduction in general tax rates across property classes, and this is consistent with the 2023 reduction, which was also 7%. For residential and farm properties, the average property value increased approximately $55,000 to $428,000, with an average total levy of $3,261 compared to $3,017 for 2024, including an average increase to municipal taxes of $83, $161 in school requisition, and $1 in seniors foundation requisition. And the province had shown that as they estimated a 21% increase to school requisition when they set out their rates for the town. And for non-residential properties, the average property value increased approximately $14,000 to $1,016,000, with an average total levy of just over $11,000 compared to $11,200 for 2024, including an average decrease in municipal taxes of $600 and $12 in seniors foundation requisition. However, an average increase of $429 in school requisition, and the province had estimated the non-residential increase to the school requisition at 13% for the town of High River. On December 9th, 2024, Council adopted the 2025 operating budget in the amount of $34.3 million. And that included $16.022 million from municipal taxes. And in addition, there'll be flow through on the requisitions of $7.69 million for school requisition, $272,000 for seniors foundation requisition, and just over $1,500 for designated industrial properties, for a total tax levy of $23.984 million. The tax rates in bylaw 4650-2025 will yield a tax levy consistent with the approved 2025 operating budget, plus third-party requisitions. And my apologies. Ended up with extra paper. There we go. So, looking at a tax rate of, for residential and farmland property, the tax rate presented is just over 0.5%, so 0.51586%. And for non-residential property, close to 2/3%, so 0.67061%. And that's a decrease from last year of, as mentioned, the average decrease is 7%. Oh, there it is. Sorry. It's actually a decrease of 9.36% across all property classes for the actual general levy. The 7% average is due to the average increase of 4.75% to the school requisition. And administration's recommending passing the property tax bylaw as presented. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions from council? So every community goes through this where they're trying to explain what the actual impact is to individual property owners, and lots of times it's done in a percentage piece where it's either a percentage piece, but often we try to do it in an actual dollar value as to what it affects every year. So as Michelle was stating, the average home in High River residential at $428,000 would see an $83 per year increase from the town of High River, which is the budgeted 3.4% increase. But also the significant one that absolutely needs to be talked about this year is this $161 from the school for the provincial school tax. Now, this is the goofy game that the provincial government plays with municipalities in that they don't collect their own taxes. They put it on us, on all municipalities to basically do their dirty work, and I have no problem whatsoever in speaking to what's going on this year with this snake oil that the province is throwing out there, and that, you know, they're telling all of us that we get a $750 tax reduction from the province this year, but they're making it up over here, right? So yeah, you can say, oh, that's wonderful, you're giving us a tax reduction, but all they've done is pass the buck and put it on the, because that money has to be made up from somewhere. You don't have a deficit budget and give a provincial tax cut at the same time without trying to make up money from somewhere. And this is where it is, folks. $161, or what'd you say, a 21% increase on the provincial school requisition. Which is where the majority in every single municipality is struggling to explain this to their communities, because if it's on our tax bill, it looks like we're the ones charging it. So we have changed. Chris was showing me what we're trying to do with our system so that to try to make it as clear as possible to every resident and business in this town as to where the actual major increase is coming from, and that's directly from the province on the education requisition. So I just wanted to speak to that, to point that out, because it's absolutely something that needs to change, that this is a provincial tax ask, and the province needs to go out and ask for it. and quit putting it on the backs of municipalities to do their work for them. So there's my rant. Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. You stole my rant. Well, I just want to make sure that, and this is to comms and administration, anything we can do to make sure we communicate this out to the public is really, really important this year. And I haven't seen the new documentation that you're talking about, but as long as it really highlights the difference between the town's requisition and the province of Alberta's education. Thank you.
One other piece I want to mention, just because we always get compared to Okotoks constantly. Every municipality in this province has the highest tax rate. But our increase of 3.4% compares to Okotoks' increase this year was 4.8. So just a little tidbit for you. No further questions from council. I will ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council give first reading to bylaw 4650-2025, the 2025 property tax bylaw, and the council give second reading to previously mentioned bylaw, and that all council give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 4650-2025, the 2025 property tax bylaw.
You have my motion, Mayor.
And we absolutely need to hopefully get this done today because of the Canada Post strike that every municipality is also fighting to try to get all their property tax bylaws and their property tax bills out in the mail before the strike happens. So the possible strike. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4650-2025, the 2025 property tax bylaw, and that council repeal bylaw 4630-2024, the 2024 property tax bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Michelle. Hit print. Special events policy revisions, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the item before you today is the special events policy, which was up for review in April of 2025. After internal department discussions, the following changes are being made. Removal of sidewalk sales and added in street markets. Removal of funding for signature events as they have separate funding agreements with the town. Removal of the online portal and decision to be issued by the special events coordinator. In the permits and licensing section, administration has now referenced the special event resource guide, which can be quickly updated for event planners within the community should anything change. Insurance information has been updated to a $5 million general liability depending on the risk of the event and will also be in the reference guide should there be any changes to insurance. Added into the emergency response plan section, a safety meeting for all signature events must be done with the town at least 1 month in advance. And removal of the town's communication division circulating the neighborhood notification letter, as that's the event organizer's responsibility. Administration today is seeking approval of the updated policy. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Heather. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate it. Just a quick question on the possibility of the general liability being increased. Can you give some context on what event? Can you generalize that to maybe an event we have in the community as opposed to one that would require that, one that wouldn't? I'm assuming I have a good idea, but I would just like to understand.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a general liability is normally $2 million for any kind of normal event, like if you're having like a picnic in the park or any kind of like simple event. If it's something more complex, if there's alcohol involved or considered to be a higher risk, at that point in time, we would ask for the $5 million.
And we have a flow chart as well that we work with corporate services to be able to determine whether it's a high risk or a low risk event.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor. So are you saying that there's some flexibility in that 5 million general liability? I don't know if you've looked at the cost difference between the 2 million and 5 million, but it's massive.
There is a big difference between the two. So it would come down to the risk of the event itself. So working with the event organizer to determine what is actually happening at the event, and then using the risk assessment chart that we have to determine whether it's considered to be high risk or low. If there is any alcohol, though, it's automatically considered to be a high risk event.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk to council approve the policy revisions for the special event policy.
Give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Heather. Recreation monthly pass consideration due to closures. Sam?
Oh, you turned it on for me. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. As you'll recall, last July 2024, Council approved month-long extensions being provided to active pass holders as compensation when there's a closure for 7 days or more with our current construction. Given that construction is a weekday thing, Monday to Friday, we have had a hard time reaching that 7-day closure, and the patrons are becoming a little bit frustrated. So there have been more closures than we were originally anticipating, especially with 2 due to our current infrastructure. We've had to shut down due to leakage. The report is to consider how passes are managed to allow administration to provide a 1-month pass extension to active pass holders at the beginning of the impacted period for closures that are now 5 days or longer. We're also wanting to confirm that with council that we can continue to provide day passes when the closures are 4 days or less on that day-by-day basis, depending on if people show up expecting to see the pool open and it's not. And then lastly, due to the extended closure coming up in November of approximately 1 month, we are recommending to provide free access to the pool for the 2 weeks prior to the closure. Does council have any questions or comments at this time?
Thanks, Sam. Any comments, questions from council? Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I appreciate this coming forward to us, and I appreciate the solution in terms of customer service. How much of this was, I guess, internally constructed, and how much of it might have come from public saying, you know, we're considering doing this in lieu of what's happened with your ability to use your monthly pass or coming in for a day? Did we bounce this off some of the people that come to the desk every day, or is this something that, I don't know, I guess from past experience that we've drawn a conclusion that this will be fair, equitable compensation, I guess you'd say, for the people that are using the facility in that regard? So if you have anything like that you can share.
I would say both. We constantly get people asking when we have another closure, asking, what are you going to do for me next time it happens, but also what are you doing for me for the last time? So I think it will be the 2-week free access, I think, is just a nice gesture to say, hey, thanks for sticking with us. The 5-day adjustment is what I would say is due, just based on the fact that we haven't been closed 7 days because construction's never on the weekend. So it's only been 5 days. So I think it's more of a making things right as well as safeguarding going forward.
Construction at this extent that we're doing at the BSRC is never easy, of course, and it's because of the size of the facility and the amount of people that access that place, and especially the pool right now. We are going to run into these. It's just the nature of construction that we're going to have closures to tie the two pieces together. So all of this is more than fair in my mind to help alleviate some of those concerns that you just talked about, Sam. So appreciate it. Where am I? So I will ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that Council direct administration to extend all passes that are active on the first day of our next pool closure for a period of 1 month. This closure is currently scheduled to be May 25th to May 29th, 2025. And that Council directs admin to extend all passes for a period of 1 month that are active on the first day of any other scheduled pool closure that lasts 5 days or longer. And that Council directs administration to continue to supply day passes for all closures 4 days or less on an as-needed basis. And that Council directs administration to provide free access to the pool for the 2 weeks prior to the November pool closure when the new basin will open.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have the motion.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you very much.
You are no longer a rookie. Contract award 2025 miscellaneous pedestrian improvement services. Diana?
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the 2025 miscellaneous pedestrian improvement services. The purpose of this project is to improve the accessibility and safety for all pedestrians. If Council approves this project, we'll be looking to complete work in 9 locations. The first location, actually we have 4 locations that the scope of work is completely the same. And the scope of work includes remove and replace asphalt paving. The first location is on 12th Avenue Southeast between 5th Street and 10th Street. The second location is between Littlebow Park. The third one is on 12th Avenue Southwest between Center Street and the Recplex. The fourth location is a playground at 16th Street Southeast. So as mentioned before, all the four location has the same scope of work. The fifth location, scope of work changes, and this is all new sidewalk, which is really the missing links that we will be working on. And the fifth location is on 9th Street Northwest, south of Emerson Road, Southwest. The sixth location is actually Wallaceville Pathway, and that is from 1st Avenue Northeast. This scope of work includes new sidewalk. We'll be totally removing the existing sidewalk and doing some remediation work and taking care of the grading issues we have out there. The seventh location includes the intersection of Center Street and 16th Street, and that is actually the traffic island that we'll be taking care of. The scope of work out there includes the concrete actually for that island is not in good condition, so we will be removing it and replacing it. The eighth location, this is actually the TELUS Tower, and this is outstanding work that should have been taking place when we did Center Street, and that was an agreement with the town. So we're actually going to be removing the existing step and building a new ramp out there. And the ninth location, actually this includes just some deficiencies from the last project that we worked on, concrete projects that we worked on in 2024. The contractor did not complete his obligations with the town, and so we had to cut ties with him. So now we're just trying to have those deficiencies completed. So The reason why this scope of work is so large for 2025 is because we actually tendered all these projects except for the Wallaceville project last year, and we didn't actually receive any bids on them. So now we've included the Wallaceville project, and on April 17th, we actually received 4 bids. And the contractors that actually bid on these projects are Beaumark Paving Limited, Caliber Construction, Dynasty, Rocky Iron Contracting. The bids that we received actually was between a range of $739,942.94 to $1,288 and $1,280,163.00, and this does not include GST. At this time, so after careful review, we actually are recommending that this contract be awarded to Beaumark Contracting Limited. And that concludes my presentation. Does council have any questions?
Thanks, Diana. The Wallaceville pathway, when the new one is completed, will the old one that always gets flooded in the spring, will that one be removed?
Yes, we're going to be removing all the sidewalks that's out there and doing some remediation work to control the drainage issue.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Nice to see all this work going to get completed. My question wasn't in terms of the work, but it was in terms of the contractor that did not take care of the deficiencies. Can you tell me the name of that contractor?
East Butte.
Sorry?
East Butte Contractor.
East Butte?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess, yeah, a further question. There's no, maybe this is to CAO Prosser. There's no ability on picking up any compensation back. I'm sure it's just a dead issue with that contractor. They could have packed up their business and not exist anymore. I don't know.
In essence, the only thing that we may have is some holdbacks that would cover some of the costs, but they could have, you're absolutely correct, could have dissolved their business and we'd have no recourse.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Looking through these, the only one that appears to have a direct impact on a homeowner is Site 5. And I know that was a contentious one last year or the year before. I just want to ensure that the new homeowner has been advised that, I'm smiling and looking at Riley because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, but that particular site, has the owner been advised and know that we're coming in there to take up their front yard?
We will definitely be doing engagement with those residents before we actually start any construction in those
Awesome.
areas.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Not that I'm against the project. I think the project should go ahead, but I want to make sure that they're aware.
Okay.
Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Diana. Was there any, I know it's being awarded, but what was the anticipated date? Like, are we looking spring, summer, fall for this work to be completed?
So construction completion date is actually tentative date, as we know construction works up sometimes. We're trying to wrap this up by the latest, the end of August, really.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. For the Wallaceville project, is there a map of how or where the new pathway may go?
Yes, we do have a map, but based on the number of trees and different, there's a fire hydrant in there. We're trying to bring the sidewalk as close as possible to the road. So the plan is to actually field fit it so we don't destroy any of the trees that is there, the mature trees.
Okay. The other consideration there is, in the summertime, it's not bad because it's light out quite often. Right now, I know it's close to the highway, so the only light it gets is from the light standards on the highway. If we put it too far in or there's too many trees, it could be quite dark, and we do have to consider that, like whether we add lights to the light standards or lights on the pathway, depending on where it is. So I do have a concern just with that pathway, where it's going and how dark it may be at certain times of the year.
We did consider that, and we just want to actually try and fit the sidewalk as close to the street and see what lighting we get, and then we make an assessment from there to see how much lighting we need to add.
Perfect, thank you.
And that actually would be a future project because it's not part of this scope.
No, I understand. Thanks.
No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that Council authorize the award for the 2025 miscellaneous pedestrian improvement services for $754,624.55, excluding GST and contingency, to Beaumark Paving Limited, and the Council authorizes the CAO to execute the Beaumark Paving Limited contract.
You have my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Diana. Item 5, Councillor Board Committee reports. Anybody? Councillor Jones?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Actually, I was hoping Heather would still be here. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who volunteered for the green sweep two weekends ago. That was a very busy weekend with lots of people out and about. I had a great time with my Connect Club cleaning up and seeing other people out there cleaning up as well. Also that day there was a Habitat for Humanity groundbreaking ceremony, which was really nice to see. There were lots of people there checking it out. It is across the street or beside the hospital if anybody wants to see it, but that project has started quicker than they expected, so it's our second Habitat for Humanity project in High River. It was just really heartwarming. There's 2 families that will be homeowners in High River, and we're very excited to do that. So watch as that project continues. And then one last thing, we have one more coffee with council in June. It will be June 2nd at 10 a.m. at Medicine Tree Manor, I believe, and it'll be the last one for this term, so we hope to see some people out there. That's all I got.
Well done. Thanks, Jenny. Anyone else? Item 6, public comments section. Anybody?
Good afternoon. For anyone viewing, my name is Iris Preeb, and I'm a resident of High River. For today's public comments, I have a few questions and comments and clarification of some items for agenda item 4.1. So that was the annual financial statements and auditor's report. So the first question to CAO Prosser, if possible, is could there be clarification of how several major accounting standards were not recognized in a timely fashion? And so the 2 items that I'm referring to are the off-site levies that I believe the town has been collecting those off-site levies for well over 10 years. I don't have the exact timeline, but to realize in this set of statements that they weren't following the correct accounting standard for all of those years. And then also learning that after last year's audit and identification of the qualification of the ARO, and realizing that this year that qualification still stands, and that was a new accounting standard brought in effective the 2023 year end, but that the standard setting body always gives at least 5 years advance notice. So at this point, the town has been working on that standard for 7 years. I think my concern is threefold. How do the residents know that there's not other standards that aren't currently being correctly applied? What is being done to address the ARO in terms of a timeline of actually implementing it? And then how will the town also address the new standards that are included in the notes to financial statements that will be effective, I believe it's the 2026 year end?
So I'll answer your question on the offsite levies first. The offsite levies was readjusted based upon the advice coming from our auditors. Previously, it had been recorded as revenue, and Michelle, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm incorrect in my interpretation, and had been not identified in previous audits up until this past year. So we're correcting that, and we're making sure that's moving forward as a correct deferred revenue item in over versus a reserve balance that we had previously recorded it. As far as the ARO, the information that we provided to the auditors was not sufficient. We thought it was. We're moving in that direction to have a plan in place to meet the information requirements that they demand from us. And that goes same with the contaminated sites. In the past, our contaminated site brownfield inventory was sufficient. That needs more detail in it than we expected for this audit. So we're going to be updating that and getting more detailed information for that perspective. So those are how we're trying to meet those timelines, and we're trying to meet those for the 2026 timeframe. And that would be the same for all the other standards as well.
So there shouldn't be any future qualifications on the financial statements for either the ARO or for the new standards coming in 2026?
I can't predict that from audit to audit. At the end of the day, we do our best to meet the standards as how we interpret them. We have had different auditors interpret them differently for us in different audit seasons. So at the end of the day, it depends on what happens when our audit does come forward. But for the most part, we strive to meet all the standards that are set out under PSAS, and we feel comfortable that we've got the information provided to them.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And my next question is about the financial statement note on the deferred revenues. So in looking at, and perhaps again, CAO Prosser, you might be able to start this, start the response to this. Noticing that there were 3 deferred revenue balances totaling about 2.2 million that were listed as being repaid to the province because the town had not spent those balances. And I'm just wondering kind of how that comes about, or how it is that the town didn't need those grants.
So those were flood recovery grants, and they were designed for specific projects that were approved by the province within the community. If those budgets came under budget or contingency were not used, those funds were intended to be returned back to the province.
So the town doesn't need to do any more flood recovery work related to this money?
The province would not grant us approval or any new projects.
Okay. And then my final question is about the reserves balance. So recognizing that the changes that appear in Note 11 for the reserves balances, and the reserves being divided into the operating and the capital components, based on the decisions that were made during the budget proceedings for the 2025 budget, the town had $6.8 million in their operating reserves and now only has $254,000. And so the majority of that, I believe, was shifted down into the capital, into that $15 million balance that sits in 2024. But again, please correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of that will be used to pay for the final costs for the expansion, the BSRC expansion. So once all of that plays out, it looks like the town now has almost no operating reserves and has very limited capital reserves that are based off of the user fees for all of the utility items. So I think the concern is, A, what does the town do when it needs operating reserves and there are none? And B, what would be your best guess, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, as to how long it might take for the taxpayers to repay, to pay enough taxes to replenish some of those reserve balances?
So I guess, Iris, the difference in philosophy when it comes to operating reserves versus capital reserves. Operating reserves, when we see the growth that we were seeing within our operating reserves, it was obviously a taxation issue, and that we were seeing surpluses being directed in there and projects that were being identified that weren't being completed or started at all. And so at the end of the day, when we developed our new reserve policy, we identified that as a significant issue, and that those funds should be redirected to a capital side of things. In addition to that, when we take a look at our operating funding process, we do our best to estimate what our funding process is going to require. And that also includes a little bit of contingency within our operating budgets from that perspective. And so we make sure that we don't need to dig into our operating reserves. And operating reserves should be used for specific projects identified by council through resolution, not a savings account for a future, say a town plan, for example. Those are projects that should be coming from this council table through the budgetary process and as a special project. When you take a look at our capital side of things, we are still very healthy capital from a capital perspective. We have a solid revenue stream coming in on all our utilities to fund future capital needs. Those capital needs are balanced out with our human resource capacity of how much we can fix in a given year and how much our residents can weather in a given year as well. And so at the end of the day, to project out how long that will last, I can't give you that answer decisively. But at the end of the day, we think, when we talk about $1.5 million per every couple of years of major capital improvements in our infrastructure systems, those are types of things that we target with those capital funds, as well as grants from MSI, or not MSI, LGFF, and Building Canada funds as well that will help us offset those costs. So, you take a look at what we have remaining at about $18 million, that gives us probably a good 10 to 15 years-ish kind of time frame. And if not a little bit longer than that, as well as we'll continue to build those and fund those reserves because we do have excess revenue coming in our utilities because of our services that we provide outside our boundaries.
Thank you for those comments. I think, again, the concern just is with the tax stabilization reserve being so low, and currently with the way the reserves have been collapsed, there isn't a way to see what you referenced, specific projects that should be coming out of that versus fluctuations in the need for how the property taxes are established. And likewise with the capital projects, the concern really is that The large majority of the remaining reserves are for utility type projects only, right? So we're now saying, what about all of the other many capital projects that potentially need to be addressed that don't fall into those categories? And again, because those reserves are fed through the user fees, and the user fees have the restrictions in terms of using it only for utility, there's not going to be a future opportunity to say, oh, let's take $2 million out of water utility and use it because we need it for a fire hall or recreation. And given that the town will also be waiting a substantial amount of time to get some non-committed LGFF grant funds, because those are all going towards the BSRC for the next 2 years, 3 years, I'm not exactly sure. So I feel like there's just, again, now this gap and this lull where a catch-up has to happen, and now we're that much further behind on all of these other infrastructure needs. But I appreciate your comments on the funding will continue to flow in. I just don't see the numbers lining up at this point, and I'll just continue to watch and hopefully not be as concerned as I am today.
Let me jump in. It's the council of the day that determines operating reserve amounts and how much we collect. That's it. It's the only group of people that does that. Not the CAO, it's all council decision. And I've stated, you've been at the table before where I've stated this 1,000 times, that when myself and like 2013, we had zero reserves, operating zero, none.
Not true.
Hey, operating reserves, like reserves, there's off-site levy, there's off-site levy and capital reserves. There's the mandatory reserves, Iris, but we had no reserves that we could just use, none. And we did not feel that that was responsible whatsoever. Carol, you were involved in that. So and from guidance from the days, CAO Thackeray, CAO and our CFO at the time, Tom Meyer, was very aggressive on getting our reserve amounts up. Very aggressive. Far more.
But I'm speaking to the numbers that I'm looking at in today's financial
statements. Let me finish and I'll explain it to you. It'd be great. What I'm saying is that the council of the day, under guidance from the CAO, the council is the one that decides. So the next council could decide to do nothing, or they could decide to do a big tax increase to meet everything you want. Now, the tax stabilization fund was created completely by fluke because of COVID. That's it. That's the only reason why that tax, we called it, I don't know why you're shaking your head like, I don't get that, but you can choose.
Because I've read the report that Leanna Ashbacher did at the time describing where the money for that tax stabilization reserve came from, and it wasn't COVID.
It was through COVID, through savings from not having staff around, et cetera, et cetera. There's 15 different reasons why that came to be, but it was because of COVID and everything that came with it, period. So, is that a fund that's going to be replenished again? I don't know. That's up to council to decide. 100%. Whoever's elected as the next council will decide that with the next budget. And Riley, I want to clarify something with off-site levies. How long have they been collected? It's a lot longer than 10 years, what Iris is saying.
Correct. The new structure came in.
The new structure is one thing, but like decades. Yeah, it's not 10 years, Iris.
I didn't say it was exactly 10 years. I said about 10 years. I'm not sure of the exact time frame is what I did say.
Okay, I'm not sure of that, but I can't remember. Do you have any other questions?
No. No, thank you. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? See none, hear none. Thank you. Council correspondence requiring action. The letter of support for Foothills Regional Emergency Services Commission. Steve?
afternoon. Perfect. Good afternoon. Mayor Snodgrass and Council, once again. For you is request for letter of support for Foothills Regional Emergency Services Commission or our dispatch center. The town of High River is a partial owner of the commission, and we've been looking forward, or the commission's been looking at trying to integrate CPIC, or Canadian Police Information Center, into their dispatching center, which will aid the assistance of the peace officers which they are working or dispatching for. Presently, there's 2 dispatch centers in the province that provide this level of service. That is Lacombe City Police and Tabor City Police, and we're seeing a lot of our peace officer programs start to shift over to these 2 agencies and away from FRESC, because they currently don't offer that. It's an officer safety program, and as outlined in the package for you folks, it's the only program that really allows officers to have that updated information on who and what they're really dealing with. So our outcome on this is if council endorses a CPIC in-car access project being led by Foothills Dispatch in Foothills County, and authorize administration to submit a formal letter of support on behalf of the town of High River. Any questions?
See none, hear none. Councillor, ask for sorry, Councillor Nychuk.
No, really not a comment. I think it's a good thing for you through the staff and from a safety and a service perspective. There's nothing in this report that talks about the financial commitment or obligation at this time. So for me, I'm fully supportive of going ahead with, and as far as I'm concerned, we should support this and see it through. Just an enhancement to our community service, absolutely. So thanks for bringing it forward.
Awesome, thank you.
Steve, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that Council direct administration to write a letter of support for Foothills Regional Emergency Service Centre to secure access to the Canadian Police Information Centre as requested by FRESC and Foothills County.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Municipal displays of respect and support requests. Jody?
Yes, so council will recall that we passed our policy for municipal displays of respect and support. We did have the Moose Hide campaign as a proclamation, but not listed for lighting up the building. So we did receive a request for it to be lit up on May 15th in golden yellow. Now, because we do share our joint administration building with Foothills County, their council has already agreed to this. So we wanted to make sure that our council was also on board with this before we proceeded with lighting up on the 15th.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from council? Ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council authorize the administration building be illuminated golden yellow on May 15th, 2025 in support of Moose Hide Campaign Day 2025.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jody. Council correspondence, information attached, Habitat for Humanity from the Roan House and from Canalta Hotels. With that, meeting adjourned 4:22 p.m.